Another very valuable space warp in the 3ds Max toolset is gravity. In this video, we'll take a look at how you go about adding a gravitational effect to a particle system. I'll be using a file named Gravity Space Warp. You can find it in the Working Files folder. Okay, let's go see what we can do. Playing back the camera view, our particles, created using a super spray, currently shoot straight out of the particle system emitter heading toward the top of the view. Having nothing in our scene to pull them down, each particle will continue traveling in the direction that it's going until its life setting causes the particle to expire. Let's see if we can't change that by adding a gravity space warp into the mix. Now, a gravity, like the good majority of the other space warps that Max offers, lies in line with the viewport that it's created in. If we want our space warp's pull to head downward, we'll want to make that space warp in the top view. To access the command, we'll head over to the Create column of the command panel, clicking on the space warps icon on the second row right-hand side. Being an atmospheric type of space warp, we'll find gravity in the forces category. Over on the left-hand side, fourth button down, we'll click on gravity. We'll then activate the top view, then drop one into the scene. Now the position of the icon won't be important, so I'll place it over on the upper left-hand side. Once I have the gravity in the scene, I'll activate the camera view, taking it full screen. You can do that using the Alt-W keyboard shortcut. Let's go ahead now and play back our scene. Not having yet identified what we want the gravity to affect in our scene, the super spray particles simply continue traveling in their same upward direction. Space warps always need to be connected or bound to what they're intended to affect. That binding process takes place by choosing a command on the toolbar called Bind to Space Warp. The command's located on the upper left-hand side. Let's go ahead and do that. We'll bind the super spray to the gravity. Activating the command will then drag our mouse held down from one icon to the other. Right away, we can see the effect the gravity is having on the particles. Let's hit Q on our keyboard, returning to the Select command so we can get out of Bind to Space Warp. Now, with the gravity icon selected, let's play back our animation so we can make a few adjustments. We'll also have to open up the Modify column to access the controls. The amount of pull on the particles is being controlled by the gravity strength. The higher the number, the stronger the influence the space warp's effect will have on the particle system. Let's right-click on the strength value, taking it to 0. So here again are the way things look with the super spray not being affected by any gravitational influence. Let's take that space warp strength to 0.1. Here's 0.2. And 0.3. Now, the higher we go, the more we see the way the particles drop in the direction of the gravity icon arrow. Let's try a strength of 0.4. Then we'll compare that with 0.5. Increasing the strength value all the way up to 2 will have a dramatic effect. Let's try that. Let's then return our strength to 0.3. Using a negative strength value, the effect would be reversed, with the particles then shooting up in the original direction with more force. Let's try a strength of -1. You can see the difference that's made. Let's take the value back to 0.3. Now, the space warp also has the ability to apply not a linear gravitational pull, but a spherical force field, which can be used to create some rather unusual effects. In the force category of the parameters, we'll change from planar to spherical. Now the particles are being influenced by more of a spherical gravitational attraction or pulling effect. Let's take the setting back to planar. One last thing I'd like to show you is the setting called decay. When decay is turned on, or used in other words, The gravity icon will create a limited and specific area in which the gravity actually affects the particles the space warp is bound to. If a specific particle isn't in that defined area, it won't feel the effect of the gravity, continuing to travel in its normal way and direction. Now you don't need much here, so let's take the decay to point 0,1. The two lines that you see on the screen, one above and one below the icon, represent the gravitational area of influence now on the space warp. With the decay set, I can now adjust the gravity icon so that the superspray particles aren't affected all to the same amount or all at the same time. To show you that, I'll zoom back a ways in my camera view, then move the space warp icon up. You'll notice that it's not until the particle hits the decay area where that particle is then influenced by the gravitational pull. Now, check how the particle movement differs if we again turn off the decay. I'll do that by simply right-clicking on either of the decay spinners. Let's undo that with Ctrl-Z to get the decay back on. Watch the difference if we this time take the decay to, let's say, 0.02. Now, having a smaller decay area, each particle shoots higher up in the scene before being affected by the gravity space warp. Let's go ahead and stop our play, and we'll cancel out the decay. If we change the direction of the gravity by rotating the space warp icon, we'll see how that affects the particles as to both the way and direction the gravity pulls them. Let's play that back at a different angle, and we'll take the strength to 0.6. Okay, there you go with adding gravity to a particle effect. Something that you'll probably be doing quite often. So remember the options, and be sure to put them to use in your upcoming projects. I'll go ahead and save the scene out as Gravity Space Warp Completed if you'd like to take a look.